Welcome back to Cap Review. Now, among the conservatives voting with Democrats to oust Kevin McCarthy was Virginia Congressman Bob Good. Now, Good said that McCarthy's 45-day deal to fund the government and avert a shutdown was the final straw for him.
We need a speaker, ideally somebody who doesn't want to be speaker and hasn't pursued that at all costs for his entire adult life, who will meet the moment and do everything possible to fight for the country.
So we want to bring in Virginia Congressman Bob Good now. Representative Good, welcome back to Cap Review. Appreciate you for joining us.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me. So
back in January, you were one of the leaders on the House floor to sway other Republicans to vote for Kevin McCarthy to become Speaker. Now you're one of 8 Republicans to vote him out. What was the breaking point for you? What went wrong?
Well, I'm sorry, I must correct you. I never voted for Speaker McCarthy. I was one of the final 6 who never voted for him. I did help my colleagues persuade them to change our vote to present so he could move forward with the yes votes that he had once it became clear that with 6 of us he was going to ultimately become Speaker. But so after that happened back in January, which was mostly, in my view, about not repeating the failures of the past, not passing our major spending bills with a majority of Democrat votes when we had the House majority as Republicans. But after he was voted in as Speaker, I went to see him in January, pledged my support to him, told him I was behind him, wanted him to be successful because the country needed him to be successful. And I was with him until he reverted back to his old past history and he negotiated, I'll use that term loosely, he surrendered to Joe Biden in the debt ceiling negotiations and agreed to a unlimited, unconditional increase of debt ceiling through January 25, whatever we can spend. And that's what Congress is really good at, spending other people's money. And he did that with predominant Democrat votes. Democrats voted for it 4-1 in the House chamber. And then he failed to pass our spending bills, as he promised to do before the September 30 deadline. He had the ability to lead us in getting those bills to the floor, cutting our spending and implementing our conservative Republican policies so we could send the strongest negotiating position. The Senate failed to do that. And then he responded ultimately this past Saturday with the final straw, where he led us to passing a continuing resolution, a CR, that keeps in place all the Biden, Pelosi, Schumer policies and the spending levels that are crushing us. For another 45 days, we got nothing in return for that. We didn't negotiate. We surrendered. And once again, it was passed 209-1 by Democrats in the House and 51-0 by Democrats in the Senate.
So, okay, now I want to play some sound from McCarthy in his statement. Let's take a listen.
Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it is necessary. I don't regret standing up for choosing governance over grievance. It is my responsibility. It is my job. I do not regret negotiating. Our government is designed to find compromise.
All right, so you heard him say it there. He says he doesn't regret negotiating. What's your response to that?
Well, the first part of what he said is certainly true. Doing the right thing is not always easy. It certainly wasn't easy yesterday, but it was necessary. And it was a sad day that we had to vote out our Republican speaker in order to try to find a fighter for the American people, a leader that will use every weapon at his disposal or her disposal to oppose the Biden, Pelosi, Schumer policies that are in place right now. And I'm confident we will get someone who reflects the conservative center of the conference that can unite us with 218, hopefully 221 votes that we pass it unanimously on the House floor in the first vote. But we'll have an actual competition, a contest to see who is the best person to lead us. That's healthy for Congress. It's healthy for the country. It's certainly healthy for the American people.
And I want to get to that in just a second. But first, what do you say to Americans who are on the verge of losing their job and they feel like McCarthy negotiating a deal saved them and their livelihood?
Tell me on what basis him negotiating a deal saved their livelihood?
For people who watch this all unfold, they felt that they have another month to at least continue working. How do you feel? What would you say to them?
Well,
if they
it's
feel
actually the opposite of that. There was nothing about that negotiated deal that helped Americans. So to keep in place for another 45 days the inflation causing policies, the spending that's causing 40-year high inflation, that's caused interest rates to increase to the 20-year high, where Americans can't afford to buy homes, the war on American energy, the Biden climate energy extremist policies that have caused gas prices to go up some 50-60% since he got in office, the war on utilities and regular and appliances and those sorts of things where Americans can't heat and cool their homes or decide what kind of car they want to drive or what kind of appliance they want to have in their house, the grocery costs that are through the roof, move. The weakening, the invasion of the southern border, we perpetuated all of that. The American people are suffering the undermining of our police, the slack policies on crime. So, yeah, what you did was keep those in place for another 45 days instead of striking a blow against those. I don't think that helped anybody keep their job.
So there's already talk about nominating former President Donald Trump to become the next Speaker of the House. But who do you think qualifies for the role?
Well, there'll be, I think, about a half a dozen candidates that's already being socialized now, circulating now, those who are putting out feelers, expressing their interest in running. And we're going to vet those, test those, challenge those individually as well as through group meetings and events. And then we'll come together on Tuesday and have a candidate forum. Well, they'll have to be held up to scrutiny and see who are those who can get to 218? Who ultimately is that one person who get to 218? I think we'll stay in those conference meetings until we come together on someone. We will have to, and that will unify us, and hopefully we'll be able to then pass it on the House floor in the very first vote, unanimous with 221 votes from Republicans.
And Steve Scalise is one of the names that have been coming up. Who are you particularly eyeing? Would you back him?
I'm not gonna say who I support or who I favor one versus another. I want to go through the process, make them earn the vote of myself and my colleagues, the entire conference, and see who is the best person to lead us based on their commitments to what they will do, their strategies, how they'll be different than the previous speaker. And I think we're going to have some good candidates, and we're going to have a great contest.
And Representative Good, regardless of what's happening within the Republican Party, to the American people, it appears to be even more fractured and divided than it's ever been. What do you think it'll take to unite the party?
Well, I think just what I said on the speaker vote is going to unite the party, because we will have to come together to do that. And then we'll have to come together to pass our spending bills. I think the new speaker, because everyone will have voted for him or her, we'll all have a vested interest in their success.
All right, Virginia Congressman Bob Good, thank you so much for joining us for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.